Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're going to take a super fascinating journey straight into the physical and logical backbone of the Internet of Things, or, as we all know it, IoT. We are going to pull back the curtain on how the whole shebang actually works, from tiny edge nodes and wired connections all the way up to massive wireless smart applications. So let's dive right in.
To set the stage, here's the central question we really want to explore today. Picture this. How does a single physical action, say a sudden temperature drop in some remote industrial warehouse, how does that trigger a highly complex global network response? Honestly, it's pretty incredible to think about how our physical reality gets seamlessly translated into digital data up in the cloud. And to truly understand that process, we need to build the network piece by piece.
Here's a quick look at our roadmap for today. First, what exactly is the IoT? Second, sensing at the edge. Third, wired protocols. Fourth, wireless networks. And finally, we'll look at some smart applications.
Starting with part 1, what is the IoT? Connecting the physical and digital worlds.
For a really long time, the internet was basically just a tool for people and media, right? Websites, emails, cat videos. But the Internet of Things, it's a massive extension of that existing internet. It's the networking of everyday physical objects that are embedded with electronics, allowing them to sense and communicate. We are quite literally looking at a near future where over 20 billion physical objects are connected. I mean, that is a staggering number. It's no longer just a web of pages. It's a living ecosystem of real-world assets acting as intelligent entities, constantly exchanging information and interacting with their environment totally automatically.
Moving on to part 2, sensing at the edge. This is where data is actually born. Take a look at how an edge node's architecture breaks down here. At the very edge of the network, we have these sensors collecting physical parameters, stuff like temperature, motion, or light. And the journey from the physical analog world into the digital domain is just fascinating. The raw analog signal from the sensor gets boosted by an amplifier, then it's converted into a digital format by an ADC, processed by the microcontroller's firmware, and finally securely transmitted via radio frequency to a gateway. It's basically a complete miniaturized brain working right there in the physical environment. Now, to get that raw data out of a sensor reliably, we actually lean on some basic physics. On the left, there's a simple DC circuit illustrating Ohm's law, which tells us that voltage equals current times resistance. If that sounds a bit too much like a textbook, just look at the water flow analogy on the right. Think of voltage as water pressure, pushing a constant flow of water, which is our electrical current, through a series of pipes. Even if there are blockages or restrictions in the pipe, representing electrical resistance, the overall flow of water stays constant throughout the whole system. In the industrial IoT world, this is exactly why a 4 to 20 milliamp current loop is used. That constant current carries super reliable sensor data back to the hub, completely unaffected by any voltage drops along a long wire.
All right, section 3, wired communication protocols. We'll call this the first hop.
So before data can ever reach the cloud, it frequently has to jump from the edge node to a local system using a wired serial connection, something like the RS-232 protocol. The progression here is pretty straightforward, but it's absolutely vital. First up, the local microcontroller processes the digital signal. But here's the catch. Microcontrollers use logic levels that are just too weak to travel over long cables without degrading. So step 2 brings in a voltage translator. Think of a chip like the industry standard MAX3232. It steps in to adjust those voltage levels so they meet the much more robust RS-232 standards. Finally, in step 3, the data securely transmits at a set baud rate over standard transmit and receive lines. And you can see exactly how these wires hook up physically. Notice how the TX, or transmit line, on one device literally crosses over to connect to the RX, or receive line, on the other device, using those familiar chunky D9 connectors. It's remarkably simple, bullet-through physical link layer. Now, while RS-230 is definitely an older protocol, this exact same foundational logic of sending digital signals over copper wire applies to other heavy-duty wired protocols used in industrial settings today. Take the automotive CAN bus, for example, which replaces huge, messy wiring harnesses with a super sleek, highly reliable two-wire system.
Part 4, wireless IoT networks. Time to cut the cords.
In the IoT universe, one size definitely does not fit all. If we compare a few of the heavy hitters, we'll look at Bluetooth Low Energy, or BLE. It uses a star topology and is massively integrated into things like personal health wearables, mostly because it communicates so conveniently and directly with our smartphones. Then you've got Z-Wave.
This one operates in the sub-gigahertz band, making it an absolute powerhouse for smart home automation because those lower frequency signals can easily punch right through walls. And then there's Zigbee. Based on the 802.15.4 standard, Zigbee is widely used for smart metering and industrial control, especially where devices really need to collaborate with each other.
Speaking of collaboration, let's look at a classic Zigbee mesh network. Unlike a simple star setup where every single device has to talk to one central hub, these devices can actually relay data for one another. You have a single coordinator, that's the green one, that forms the network and assigns IDs. Then, the dark blue routers act like messengers, passing data along and dynamically extending the range of the whole network. Finally, the orange end devices are typically your battery-powered sensors. They can actually go into sleep mode to save energy, waking up just long enough to shoot their measurements over to the routers. This kind of teamwork allows for massive scalability and just incredible energy efficiency.
And that brings us to Section 5, Industrial and Smart Applications. The macro view.
Let's ground this in a highly relatable, real-world application: intelligent lighting. Imagine an office setting where smart Wi-Fi bulbs actually learn employees' schedules, turning on exactly when and where they're needed. But they do more than that. They bridge the gap between local physical sensors and complex cloud logic. Using an app on your phone or even voice control, a command is routed through a standard router directly to the LED bulb. The system can even automatically adjust the brightness and color balance throughout the day to reduce eye strain. Edge devices, user interfaces, and network protocols are all working together here in total harmony. But hey, smart lights are really just a tiny slice of the pie. Check out the vast array of sectors being completely transformed right now. We're talking about entire smart cities with integrated infrastructure, remote health monitoring, and assisted living systems saving lives. Urban agriculture using sensors to perfectly trace food safety. We even have massive process industries using this tech to predict equipment failures in hazardous smelting facilities before they ever happen. The application opportunities here are truly boundless. They're pretty much only limited by human imagination.
So to make all these massive, incredibly diverse ecosystems actually function seamlessly, there are 4 essential pillars we have to rely on. First, low-power embedded systems. These ensure our edge devices don't constantly drain their batteries, meaning they can run out in the field for years. Second, cloud computing and big data. We absolutely need these to store and analyze the sheer massive flux of information being generated every second. Third, a robust networking connection. When you're dealing with billions of devices, we need expansive IP addressing like IPv6, so every single physical object gets its own unique identifier. And finally, gateways for routing. These perform the necessary protocol translations and securely fire off the process data to its final destination.
Which brings us to one final, kind of wild thought to leave you with today. As we rapidly approach a world with 20 billion connected physical objects, how on earth will we secure and manage the intelligence of this constantly expanding ecosystem? It is a staggering scale to wrap your head around, and it perfectly highlights why understanding this architecture, from the tiniest little edge node all the way up to the massive data cloud, is just so incredibly important. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer today. I really hope this breakdown helps you grasp the true power of the Internet of Things and leaves you eager to dig deeper into the future of network architecture. Catch you next time.